All right, guys, let's get it in. Bernard the Executioner Hopkins versus Sergey the Crusher Kovalev. This is a great fight. It's truly for the number one uh, seed, so to speak, essentially the number one fighter in the light heavyweight division. This is what this fight is all about. Um, and I, for those of you who appreciate the work of Adonis Stevenson, he ducked out fighting the number one or number two guy out there. So I can't give him any respect. Respect will go to the winner of this fight, Sergey Kovalev versus Bernard Hopkins. This is for everything. Um, Unification in the division. Its true glory. The winner of this fight will emerge as truly the best light heavyweight in the division, and everything's on the line here. Bernard Hopkins once again looking to defy logic, time, and fucking gravity. If you wanna, this guy defies laws of physics. This guy's a fucking legend right now, and Bernard Hopkins will do whatever it takes to win. We know that for sure. Sergey the Crusher Kovalev is a total powerhouse. Spars with Gennady Golovkin, trained by very, very experienced, very knowledgeable and skilled trainer John David Jackson, who coincidentally uh, once fought Bernard Hopkins back in the day, and lost to Hopkins actually, but has that knowledge of how to really he understands what he's up against. Let me put it that way. And Kovalev has to be ready because even he admits Bernard Hopkins to him is a dirty street fighter. That's what he's saying right now. And I think that is all well and good in front of the cameras, but he has to understand Bernard Hopkins is a technical master, and he's he's a living legend, and he will be, uh, no matter who you fight in the future. This is probably going to be your toughest fight of your whole fucking career. So take him very seriously, and he is. He had to miss the birth of his first child to stay disciplined and keep training for this fight. So much respect to Crusher Kovalev. He's clearly taking this fight as seriously as possible. But is that good enough against someone who literally um, puts quote unquote boxing experts on their fucking knees and in disbelief from what Bernard Hopkins has done in his whole entire career. And clearly, we know he's not the same fighter he once was. Bernard Hopkins has slipped to a degree. The only other time in recent memory where he was a decided underdog and lost was Chad Dawson. And Chad Dawson is a completely different style dynamic compared to Crusher Kovalev. Historically, Bernard Hopkins has done excellent against Crusher Kovalev's style, which is a come forward style. It's like part of it is counterpunching and leading. It's similar to Gennady Golovkin, but with less defense, and he leaves himself open uh, when you use angles. Blake Caparella showed you that in the first round when he was using his legs, using his movement, was backed up against the corner, and he led in with the left hook to the body, something Bernard Hopkins certainly knows how to do, and threw the straight right hand over a top. This sounds like a Bernard Hopkins move, but Caparello pulled it off and knocked down Sergey Kovalev. I understand the left hook was slightly low. It definitely caught Kovalev's attention, and but he was square. He took the body shot. He was square backing up slightly, and Caparello sees the opportunity, used a long right hand, a straight right hand, uh, and prior to that he threw the jab. So it was a 1-2 shot, threw the jab, then the right hand, and it knocked him down. And these are the kind of moves that Bernard Hopkins does on a routine basis, right? So already technically, uh, based on what Caparello did in that first round, we can tell Hopkins has a skill advantage because this is what he does all day, and he dictates the fight 90% of the time. He dictates the pace of the fight. He fights his fight. Literally, only even Jermaine Taylor was fighting Bernard Hopkins fights, and Bernard Hopkins happened to lose those fights. Really, the only other guys that I know who really did not fight Hopkins fights was Chad Dawson and to a degree Joe Calzaghe, and back in the day Roy Jones Jr. Those are the three guys that did not uh, let Hopkins dictate the pace of the fight, and that's a big deal. That's a really big deal because Crusher Kovalev has to overcome a lot. I believe he's got to hurt Bernard Hopkins early, and we've even seen that before when Hopkins fought Jean Pascal. He was hurt early, and this is a 45-year-old Bernard Hopkins. 45 years old, gets knocked down twice early, and still comes back to, in my opinion, should have won the fight. Gets a draw in Montreal. That tells you all you need to know about who won the fight. Crusher Kovalev is in deep trouble if he does not hurt Bernard Hopkins at some point in this fight. He's got the power to do it, but will he let his hands go enough? He likes to throw at an open target, and Hopkins doesn't give you an open target. He gives you flashes of openings, and he makes you look silly in the ring because you end up missing a lot. Uh, Similar to Floyd Mayweather, Hopkins has a completely different style, however. He really likes to uh, lead with straight shots. He loves to use foot movement. He's got excellent ring savvy, excellent stamina. And I have to say, uh, after taking a long consideration into this fight and at some points favoring Crusher Kovalev, I cannot bet against Bernard Hopkins ever. unless I truly believe he's up against a very special fighter. I cannot bet against Bernard Hopkins ever. He's too skilled, too experienced. And in terms of world level elite competition, he's fought nearly everybody he's had to fight. Roy Jones Jr. twice, Felix Trinidad. The list goes on and on. Oscar De La Hoya. Um, Chad Dawson, when he was the number one light heavyweight in the world. Uh, Kelly Pavlik when when he was middleweight champion. Uh, so many great fighters Bernard Hopkins has taken apart. Uh, some exceptions are there. Jermaine Taylor, you can call him an exception. Chad Dawson, you call him an exception, but again, completely different style type. Chad Dawson is, and the flaws are there. The flaws are there in Kovalev. He's got to really make sure that Bernard Hopkins is not comfortable in the ring. He's got to really impose his pressure, his power, and his volume. He's got to be a volume puncher, and I just don't see him doing that because he throws with so much power. How is this guy gonna throw the 80 to 100 punches around if he's throwing with all that power? He's really gotta flurry a little bit like Joe Calzaghe was doing, and I just don't see that happening. I see the openings are going to be there for Bernard Hopkins to fill, and I think Hopkins will outpoint Kovalev like he does to 90% of his fucking opponents. Pick Bernard Hopkins in this fight. I already got some money on Hopkins. He's plus 220. Take Hopkins. Just take Hopkins. He's not going to lose. in my opinion, one of the greatest fighters of all time. Shout out to Bernard. He's really the one that stepped up to make this fight, and I believe he will remain victorious. Let me know what you guys think. This is a very tough call. It can go either way, but I like Hopkins in the fight. Let me know what you guys think.